Well, I do have to say this is really nice being here. The presenters and the presentations have been amazing. I'm going to talk about whales, and not just whales in general, but the whales that we see just out in our own backyard. So here we have southern resident orcas, which we see primarily on our trips throughout the Canadian Gulf Islands and also through the American San Juan Islands. This is Granny. She's estimated at over 100 years old, and this day in particular was day 100 last season for us seeing whales for 100 days in a row, which has not happened in the history of whale watching. So Granny is the oldest in J-Pod, and there she is again, just right in front, and then in the back is Onyx from L-Pod. Now, when Ruffles was a male that Granny always hung around with from J-Pod, and once Ruffles passed away, then another older male from one of the other pods joined her. So almost kind of like she has her own little bodyguard. And here we've got two little spy hops from K-Pod. Now it's amazing with the orcas, they can see just as well above the water as they can below the surface. So this is my favorite behavior when they pop their heads out of the water like that. Makes you want to give them a nice big hug. And this is from K-Pod as well. So we have a juvenile with an older whale breaching. Perhaps they're just playing around. Sometimes they'll do that as hunting. What they'll do is they'll jump out of the water and they'll land on a whole bunch of fish, and that kind of knocks the fish out, and then it's easier for them to eat them. Now this here, you can see the rake marks on the dorsal fin. This is actually a resident. Residents eat salmon only, and transient orcas that we'll see a little bit later, they actually eat marine mammals. And we'll see these kind of markings on the transient that hunt for marine mammals. Pretty much their food is fighting back. How this whale got the rake marks, we still don't know. Now here you can see we've got two whales. Now, if you look at their saddle patches, which is just right below their dorsal fins, this is how they're individually identified. So no two whales will have the exact same marks on their saddle patches or even the same characteristics of their dorsal fins. Now this here is Tika. This is a transient orca, 11 years old. Now you can see the distinct curvature in the dorsal fin. This was from birth. And also the alignment of her or his body is also a little bit misaligned. Doesn't affect his swimming or hunting, but it is very distinctive. Here we have a nice picture of Howe Sound. So we got some police taking a break as they saw a transient go by. We have the Howe Sound or the Bowen Island ferry there. And this is also another transient. So very typical, we'll see transients up in the Howe Sound area. This is another transient with a bunch of Bonaparte gulls just right above, and she is a 30-year-old female, and she's a super mom. She's a super hunter. She's got 4 offspring. She did have 5. Her first one did not survive, which is typical of female whales when they have babies very young. Now, moving into humpbacks, which we also see quite a bit out there, especially in the last 3 years. Now, how humpbacks are identified is by the markings on the bottom of their tails. So no two humpbacks will have the same markings. This particular humpback is Big Mama, and she's been known to be bringing all of the whales, or the humpback whales, back into the Salish Sea area. Again, this is Big Mama again, just relaxing on her back with her pectoral flippers in the air. And humpbacks are the only whales to have long, big pectoral flippers, so they're around a third of the body length of the whale. This is Windy. Windy apparently has 3 different nicknames, but he or she, the gender is not identified, is pretty active and pretty social, and tends to be a little bit more social, a little bit more active if there's only 1 or 2 boats around. So maybe she likes to put on a show, but not for a really big crowd. And this is another humpback, kind of a weird little picture. So you can see on the ends, it's the tips of the pectoral flippers, then the blowholes in the front. So this whale, this humpback whale in the Saanich Inlet was actually doing the butterfly stroke. So this was the one shot that Joan had got. So pretty amazing to see. Very unusual behavior. Now here we've got the Dall's porpoise, which are less common in these waters. We mostly see harbor porpoises, and they're only found here in the Northwest Pacific. So from here over to Japan. And then this guy, it's amazing how these sea lions can make the big rocks look like memory foam as they're just relaxing. This is a California sea lion at the end of the jetty out of the Fraser River. And we'll get them here in the winter. They'll show up late fall, and they're here to just get as fat as possible. They lose considerable amount of their body weight throughout the summertime. We also get the stellars. These guys can get up to around 3,000 pounds, and we'll mostly see these guys on the other side of the Strait of Georgia as you're coming into the Canadian Gulf Islands. Here we'll have mostly males, but we'll see females as well and some young pups. And again, we only see them in the winter. However, one trip we were showing the passengers the big boats down at the Delta Port, and then we saw some sea lions on one of the buoys here, or one of the anchors, and now every summer we go to check to see if they're there, and they are. So maybe they're young males that are not ready to mate yet, but they sure love hanging out on those ropes. And then here we've got the little harbor seals. And they're the most abundant marine mammal that we have on the Northwest Pacific coast. And this is coming into the Fraser River at low tide. So typically we'll see harbor seals up on rocks, but here these guys are taking advantage of those nice grassy areas. And this here is what we call rain blows. So when the lighting is just right and the moisture from when the whales exhale then just creates a rainbow, but again, we like to call them rain blows. So this is a really nice picture. It just gives you the sense of the magic that you experience when you're out on the water, seeing these animals in their natural habitat. Thanks.